I'm speaking with Kathy Kelly, who's back recently from Afghanistan. Kathy, where were you in Afghanistan?
I started my trip there with two companions from Voices for Creative Nonviolence, going with helicopter jumps, compliments of the UN, to Bamyan. It's a province where things are relatively safe and calm. It's a place where a group of youngsters, they're called Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers, have organized themselves to do projects that, for instance, try to build some real relationship with people who are not part of their ethnic heritage. They're mostly Hazaras there. They've made wallets out of leather that they purchased after they raised funds, and they inscribed the Dari word for peace, sa, on the wallets, and gave them as gifts to youngsters in another province, or Pashto. They've really tried their best to be in touch with youngsters in orphanages and in other parts of Afghanistan to say, why not try to build relationships and put an end to the wars amongst ourselves. But then they also have really become quite well known within the U.S. peace movement. They do all kinds of Skype phone calls with various peace groups in the United States. That's how I first got to know them.
Let me go back a step. When exactly were you there?
I was there from October 11th until November 3rd. Now, Bamyan is, in a sense, a quiet place, but it's a place filled with memories of having...
Let me interrupt you again, because our knowledge of geography is, what part of Pakistan?
North Central.
North Central, okay.
But I just want to say that people there had fled from the Soviet invasion. Mothers and fathers could remember that. Fled from the Taliban. But I asked some young girls, did you ever hear of the date 9/11, September 11th, an attack that happened? They knew nothing about it. And then I asked them, did you know that in October 9 years ago the United States invaded your country? And they said, just we know that different groups come and invade us, and we are afraid we'll have to take our children and flee again. And people can remember, it's very steep in this small little village, they can remember that when they fled from planes and they grabbed the children and their grandparents, some people actually fell down the mountainsides to their death. So this is very real, but they also face everyday problems with hunger and disease. And there's an anger there. They work hard. They work all their lives long from the age of 5, and yet they can't break out of poverty. So these Afghan Youth Peace Volunteers have really tried through accepting microloans and supporting one another through building different small industries, a shop or buying a calf and fattening it, or one fellow is actually starting a potato chip making company to help one another get ahead. So that was very positive. But then we went to Kabul, and I think probably the most important message I can bring back is from people who live in a camp for internally displaced people. You know, when you have anger and hunger, it's like two live wires. They come together and there's sort of like an incandescence and an explosion. And that's the best way I can describe this camp. People are angry, and they should be. They had to flee from a United States aerial attack. They couldn't wait around to see, is another family going to be eliminated? One man told us that he'd lost his wife and 5 children. And now they're living, as the cold is coming, they're living with almost no shelter. They don't have easy access to water. They cook in a kind of one cauldron over a fire pit, and that's all they have.
And this is right near Kabul?
In Kabul. And the Kabul government doesn't want them there, really wants them to go. And they talked about Tayyara computer, by that they mean the drone airplanes that are run by computers. And here they are with the world's largest arsenal aimed at them. People who never meant harm to anyone. And they're, I think, amongst hundreds of thousands of people who are eking out an existence. Do you know 850 children in Afghanistan die every single day? And every day, 7,000 youngsters take their lives in their hands to drive truckloads of supplies for the United States troops that are housed in bases. It costs $800 now, not $400 anymore, $800 to get 1 gallon of gasoline into an airborne or a land vehicle in Afghanistan. Why is that? Because you have to pay the Taliban not to shoot at the convoys, and that's it. The corruption, the fraud, the waste, the ways in which wealth and productivity of this country has been poured into wars makes no sense whatsoever. We can't fix our problems with regard to healthcare and education and crumbling infrastructure here and keep pouring the money into the wars. It's just not possible. And there's not an articulate voice of leadership in the whole Congress that bought off group of spineless people who won't stand up to the fat cats that want perpetual war, that know how to use Petraeus as a shill for perpetual warfare.
I want to thank you so much. It's very cool. Now, in the middle of a sea of blind followers of Israeli apartheid, young Jews disrupt with banners and shouts the speech of Israeli Prime Minister Bibi Netanyahu.